We'll we'll call to order tonight's general bylaw review committee. And today is May 28th, 2025 at 6 p.m. And to confirm we have a quorum, we will go around. And Connie, could you start? Are you here?
I'm here. Louise? Kathy?
Ron Ruth. That gives us a quorum, but if he,
Miles Tucker, Sports Services
Yeah.
Manager.
And Chris Eve, Town Council.
thank you. Thank you all very much. So we have a quorum. Our first order of business on our agenda is to review and perhaps approve the minutes. Minutes have been circulated to the committee in anticipation of the meeting, and I put it open to the floor as to whether there are any comments or motions to approve.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll move it then for discussion. So moved.
To approve.
Second.
Yep. Any discussion on the letter of the minutes? I thought they were in good shape.
Mhm.
If not, then we'll call it to a vote.
We don't need to do a roll call.
Oh, because
Nobody's on Zoom.
thank you
Right.
very much. Thank you. Those in favor of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Aye, myself, no one opposed, unanimous to approve the minutes. So next order of business, go Article 3, Kathy had done
And this
the
will be quick.
analysis.
We will get quickly to yours, because there's not much here unless other people saw stuff. So just, if you guys have it in front of you. The Article 3, so this is a tiny thing, but 3.1.3, I've never heard of this square. So, you know,
The center as the square.
yeah, I just say Needham Center and Needham Heights Business Districts.
I like that.
That's what we call them. Then Chris's comment on 3.1.5, that this is consistent with state statute. On the secondhand merchandise, 3.1.7, this is a tiny thing, but I just thought it was confusing to say. In section 1 here, in terms of the definition of an alcoholic beverage, and so I wrote previously defined, which is the same language used in the marijuana section. The second paragraph there's a misnumbered reference. It says 3.1.9, it should say 7. So these are tiny things. If we turn the page. I think there's a missing period in 3.1.10. And then this is the only thing really of substance is that, and this took a couple discussions. 3.1.11 discharge of water. I thought that the language in a manner that would create a hazardous condition or cause damage to a public way or sidewalk was vague. In the sense that it would be difficult for a homeowner to actually know that they're causing damage. And so Kate arranged a conversation with Public Works. And what they said is any discharge causes damage, because what you're doing is the pavement's like a sponge and it soaks up the water and it either freezes or degrades the pavement, or bad things happen no matter what. So basically they don't want discharges. And in fact, that's what they're telling people. They say the bylaws don't allow discharges, period. So to make it clearer, we just got rid of this caveat. And then wrote into the public way, because if people are discharging onto their own property, it doesn't count.
So, I ask a question. So what about people who empty their pool?
There is a special, they give special permits for that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that was actually discussed.
okay.
Yeah, they have a special way of dealing with that. That's a good question.
And in terms of the sidewalk. So
Interesting. Anyway, go.
so we're prohibiting no discharge to the public way, but not onto the sidewalk?
Sidewalks is a public way.
Yeah.
That is the
I-
public way.
That's fine. My thought is we might express that because lots of people would not infer.
Oh, they
the
wouldn't?
Sidewalk
Okay.
was
Okay.
the public way. And I guess the question is, so the situation where the person has their sump pump discharging to their driveway. And their driveway is sloped.
Yeah, that counts. That it's going into the public way. They're discharging into the public way.
Okay.
That was
That was
discussed by the
discussed.
public.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's, I wanted to, raise that question. My own 2 cents is we add the word sidewalk.
yeah,
Just
that makes
because
sense if it adds
We're
clarity.
striking it below.
Yeah.
and limiting above, which suggests maybe we don't need sidewalk.
No, you're right. The problem part was in a manner that would cause hazardous.
no, I
conditions.
understand, but-
Yeah, but yeah, add sidewalk, makes sense.
The,
About into the public way, comma, including the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Okay,
Comma.
that would be explicit, someone, but make it clear to folks who might not consider it that way.
So we will, there's some say,
Including the sidewalk, the public way, including. the
accept
sidewalk.
deletion, but add. To, Chris, what was that language again specifically?
Comma, including sidewalk. Comma,
Ground, yeah.
ground and surface water
Yeah.
plugged by mechanical pump.
Um,
Um. This other one, 3.3 is just a comment that we've got almost identical things, fire alarms, burglar alarms. You could combine them, but you know, I think it's fine to have them separate.
To go to a different department, right?
Yes, so. It's like the same language, you just change fire burglar. Chris did check, now we're on page 4, Chris did check section 3.4.
I'm sorry, could I jump back to 3?
Yeah.
So under automatic dialing device, that says regular telephone lines. Or any, but we don't have a device, but is that, do I even go cellular?
They have to be hardwired, wouldn't they? So they wouldn't be cellular?
Maybe, but God knows. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not, I don't wanna delay.
So maybe the
everybody,
police department can
but
be asked that question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just something I think I wanna check.
in section 3.3.2. Or,
Steve.
Yeah. Interesting, okay.
So it's really just, is this currently the technology?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
reflects
it's just
our
a fussy-
technology.
And I can take that as a question to the police department.
Miles-
And you
Miles
can
just read
characterize it
that
as
thought.
fussy. Ron, fussy.
I'll make sure to tell the chief.
It's Ron's question, not Kathy's.
Be proud of them.
Yeah. Shall we move on? So section 3.4, handicapped parking. Chris reviewed it for us to just make sure that there were no changes in state law, because I figured this is definitely governed by state law. And it looks okay.
Question, Chris, any chance you do look at whether that trips over the zoning as well? Do we have a similar but possibly different? I should have, so
I didn't cross-reference, but I can. While we're,
it's just a check question. Oh,
I can look at that.
That's why we're here, right? Keep going.
keep going.
Okay,
Yeah.
similarly, 3.4.3 is consistent with state law. If we move to page 6, which is section 3.6. Chris did find one legal change that, the fire lane has to have a minimum width of 20 feet and not 18 feet. So that needs to be changed. Per state law. And. Oh yeah, this one I thought was funny. On page 8. 3.7.9, vaccination requirement. I was not sure about dog or cat or ferret. I thought
That
that
is
was
exactly how
very
state law
odd. That was-
reads.
I was like, what? Why ferret? You know, why not
That's what
frog
state law
or,
says.
you know,
And it might be.
rabbit or
ferret.
any other pet?
No, we had a, what do you call that thing, the spiky one, hedgehog.
Oh.
Yeah, or hedgehog, but
But
no,
hedgehogs, ferrets can be quite aggressive and bite.
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
thought
okay.
that they shouldn't be at a home with small children.
Hmm.
So that may be why
they need a
ferrets
rabies
need
shot.
to be rabies.
Okay.
prophylaxed.
That was it.
But
Because,
then Louise, you also marked up
I also marked up that section.
that section.
oh, okay.
At the top of Louise's section. Yeah.
I
Okay,
went back to
Yeah.
dog regulations.
I'm gonna,
So is there a change in this one or somewhere else?
No, I went back to 3.7
Okay,
because I was looking at it.
I'm just gonna,
What's that?
so we can see.
Right, so then these, I gather, are in essence your comments, Louise, on.
On the bylaw
Yeah,
itself. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually, so in 3.7.1 on the vaccination requirement, I was simply conforming the language to what state law provides. So it wasn't really,
so state laws doesn't require licensed Massachusetts veterinarian, they just require veterinarian, for example.
well, yes, because it could be an out-of-state veterinarian. So like, that's like some of the issues we have. Dog shows up from New Jersey because they moved from New Jersey. It's like,
yeah,
you know, and they have the veterinarian certificate.
yeah.
Makes
Um,
sense.
We do get all of the certificates, they get mailed, we get files of them
Yeah.
every month from all the different veterinary offices. So we do get all of these.
Does it need to be a licensed veterinarian though, even though it's not Massachusetts?
Well, so if it comes from a veterinarian's office and it's signed,
You assume that they're licensed.
somebody in the office is licensed.
Yeah.
I don't,
Those limits.
no,
You can't be,
we don't go back and try to
right,
figure
check on
out
all those, right, got it.
who it is. But they're, oh yeah, and it's the wrong department. It's
Okay.
Mass Department of Agricultural Resources who regulates.
Yep.
The vaccinations, rabies and all that, not Department of Public Health. And then the other thing is because the town clerk is the one who receives everything. I thought it would be good if the town clerk could be the authority that issues the fines. And I'll explain to you that last year when I first started, we had, I don't know, 400, 500 unregistered dogs. And for us to issue the fines, we have to do it under police. It's a police warrant and it's a complaint that issues with the fine. So first of all, the police department, I did, so I have to
My
say two
guess is they're
things.
more annoyed with Louise than they are with my fussy question.
No, two things happen. One is, they're like, oh my God, all these people are calling us. What did you just do? Right?
Wow.
Like I'm finding all the unregistered dogs. That's what I'm doing. But it also got me a lot of respect from the police department because they were like, oh, you're finding all the unregistered dogs. But
That's
it was,
good.
it was just a lot to do that and it's a lot for them because they have no access to any of the information. We have all the information.
Yeah.
Not the police department. They still are issuing all the other licenses, the fines, I mean, like the dogs that are unleashed or when there are dog bite issues. All of that, the animal control officer or another police officer is called for. But purely that administrative, who has registered and, you know, when, and vets
Makes
do
sense.
send us the rabies certificates for dogs that were like, oh, had no idea this dog existed. We give everyone a
Oh,
chance
so
to
they
register
find
them
out about them,
first.
yes.
Yeah, because state law,
Yeah.
so state law all changed.
Yeah.
In 2024. And veterinarians every 30 days have to send us all the rabies certificates.
30 days?
Every 30 days, monthly, we get
The
from
new ones.
the new ones from every vet for
Anita.
any dog that has a Needham residence.
Yeah.
So results in, yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
How many
seems to
people do not register? So that was my suggestion, is that in Article 8.
Yeah.
Wherever it says police, it should also say town clerk, so then we don't have to go through. And have the police phone number.
Mhm.
It's just, it's a fine.
That makes sense.
Where,
Makes
and
sense.
it's only
You're good.
for the
Oh, yeah.
rabies and the. Failure to license, only for those two.
Right, right, right,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
for
Yeah, yeah.
barking
The
dog.
administrative,
Yeah.
yeah, the rest of
Because
it,
that's what.
they
goes
still
to
come
you.
through
Yeah.
us, but they're issuing.
I think we should add the discharge of water onto the sidewalk to your job. too.
So we do all kinds of really interesting things in the town clerk's office. I had no idea the town clerk did. None whatsoever until I got there.
Lucky you didn't know ahead.
And no one told me.
It's Eddie's no fault.
So that was that. So that was just a change in language and suggestion on Article 8.
Right.
Um,
I think we
Under-
said groups on board with that.
yeah,
Yes.
under licenses and permits.
Yes, so sliding now into Article 4.
Okay,
Now we're going to 4.
Yeah.
you have that.
Kathy, you're all set, right?
Yeah, that was it. I mean,
Okay,
Four.
we've got, all right, so dog licenses. I have to see what my notes are. Miles has and all that.
Very Well, you have the issue about the service dogs.
Okay, so, yeah, so my, so first of all, I added language that was just entirely out of the statute. We get a lot of questions about people who become owners of dogs or who move into town during the licensing year, and yes, you have to license your dog for the remainder of the year. You don't get to skip the year because it's after April 30th. So maybe the select board can choose to have a reduced fee. But
Prorated for the.
it's
number
$20.
of-
It's not very
I'm kidding.
much.
Ridiculous.
I registered last December and I
Yeah.
remember you all were very polite and said, it's December.
But now
Right.
we're fixing all of that. Yes, yes. So exemptions from rabies, we do have a few exemptions from rabies. And I think that it's important that we again follow the statute. What is it that we need? We actually need a veterinarian certificate. That explains why it's inadvisable, and the Board of Health in Neenah has to find the dog exempt, which I can't imagine if they get the veterinarian certificate that they wouldn't. And
Yeah.
like, we have dogs that are sick, that have, cancer, or that are elderly. We have one dog that's allergic to the vaccine.
Geez, you know your dogs.
I know my
Louise.
dogs. 3,400 and whatever.
Wow.
so this is back on 3.7.1.
No, that's
The exemption.
4.1.1.
We slid into 4.
Oh, okay.
We slid into 4.
Okay,
In
I'm
terms of
just
when you're applying
noticing
for a license, what
The
type of
exemption is
proof
up
do you
here
need?
too.
The exemption's up there, but what type of proof do you need?
Okay,
Um,
okay, that's, yes.
so then 4.1.2. So we're specific in the bylaw. On what a service dog is. So first of all, it doesn't comply with state
Mhm.
law, doesn't comply with ADA regulations, and then there's a other group of service dogs for which we have been receiving letters from, psychiatrists that are, they're
Like
licensed
emotional support dogs.
physicians who are telling us that this dog is necessary, this person must have this dog. So the reason it is important which type of license we issue is that it has repercussions for the housing facility that the person lives in. If they're not in a single home. And so that's why that is important, because people need to know whether the person has a service dog or whether it is a regular dog that they're using for other purposes. And not everybody comes in. You have to bring in a psychiatrist letter, and people come in with those types of letters
Right.
to
With
tell
the
us.
medicine, we separate emotional support. I'm very limited,
Right.
what I'll. say.
Right.
Like, you can't fly with blankets because
Exactly.
you like this dog with you. But emotional
Yeah.
support versus service dog, and that's a very clear definition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's. important.
So I think we can think about it more. These are, some of this I just raised the issue that this is a little bit out of date. Maybe I can sit down with Chris, maybe, if Connie or others, but I do know that this is coming up as an issue, as there are more and
It's a
more.
live issue.
Clearly, we
Yeah.
have to comply with
Well,
ADA.
obviously, comply
state
with
law, I mean,
ADA,
that's-
so ADA also is anybody in a
Yeah.
wheelchair, I
Yeah.
mean, like, there's a whole list.
Would, for referral potentially, since this might be policy change, perhaps Commission on Disabilities or Board of Health.
I thought it's referred to back to the town clerk, because we're within
And
the.
it's
More about
But
license than it
then
is about.
encourage the
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
clerk to coordinate.
Yeah.
with
The
disabilities.
others, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
And then I can give specific examples of things that have come up.
But clearly, if we're not even.
Yeah, right now
compliant
we're
with
not
ADA
compliant, so it should
and
at
state
least-
law, I mean, that's at
No,
least,
no.
that,
Right, we should
that
at least have
require
language
a lot of.
that
action.
it's, that,
make it clear that's a
License.
word, yeah.
yeah, animal as defined, a service animal as defined by the American with Disabilities Act
Right, and
or
the
regulation.
problem, or one of the problems is that this language currently in our bylaw limits it to a blind or deaf person.
Right.
And clearly, that's
It's just
too narrow
not-
Right.
and not legal.
Just for the notes, is this a recommended antiquities change?
Yes.
to- okay.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah, I think so.
that one is because it's antiquated.
And then also refer.
no refunds.
So my next highlight is subsequent death gets people really upset when their dog passes away and they come in for a refund, and we're like, oh. Sorry,
come
so
in for
I'm just
over
bringing it
$20
up,
fee?
I'm not saying we have to do
They
anything, but,
literally come in for a refund of.
Of 20 bucks?
oh yeah, people and their dogs are.
Right, they're,
Yeah.
their dogs are very
Pet
special.
dog. Dogs are very.
My dog, it's your fault, you made
Oh,
me
yeah.
license it.
Oh, yeah, or they won't license their dog because it's 16 years, 7 months, and it might die during the year. It's like, okay.
Wow,
Oh, yeah.
oh my, I have to get over that. That's,
Recall this next town meeting when we're looking at
But I just-
compensation for the town
I
clerk.
just have-
Recall. this.
Recall that, yeah, that's right.
But that's not, I don't think we
Wrong.
should necessarily, I'm just letting you know that that's something that comes up.
Yeah.
Does it need to
Um,
say subsequent? I guess it does, because it's after the license fees.
It's after the license,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own views to.
I don't think
defer
we
to you.
should change
Yeah.
it. I think
People get
it's-
also upset when we send them a notice to renew their license and their dog had
Had
passed.
Like you're supposed to
Oh.
know everything.
We didn't know, we're really sorry. 4.1.4.
Yeah.
All right, so this one, and I looked at other communities. So we have to license the dog between January 1 and April 30th. And then it goes from $20 for a neuter or spayed dog to $20 plus your $100
Fine.
fine.
Hmm.
Okay. People freak out.
Right.
Like hugely. So I did look at other communities. There are some that have like this graduated. You license your dog between January 1 and February 28th, $20. And then they have a late fee period from March 1 to April 30th. So it's like an extra $20 before you impose the $100 fine. Just like as a thought that maybe we want to do that, have a late fee in between the two.
I think it's really honestly more falls on you and whether you want to deal with that complexity, you know.
So
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
otherwise, what we do is we issue the fine, which is appealable to court. They don't pay the fine, they don't pay their license. It goes, makes its way to Dedham District Court, where eventually the animal control officer has to show up.
Yeah.
And the court invariably throws out the fine,
Okay, that seems.
which is a
Yeah.
complete waste of time. Some people just pay the fine. And some people still, like right now, just pay the fine. They know they didn't license their dog. They can't come up with a good excuse why not. and they'll just pay the
Yeah.
fine, but. I think like really the fine is reserved for people who. After repeated
Right,
reminders aren't licensing their dogs, or we find them on June 15th on the street. And
different circumstances.
Yeah. yeah, as opposed to the people who can't seem to get their act together between January 1 and April 30th. And the other thing is because it's such a long time period, like many people pay their bills monthly. Here, it's not due right away. It just sits there
Right, right.
until it's overdue.
I always thank God it was pink because at least I could find it.
Well, now we don't send out bills.
Oh, so then.
It's all electronic, so now
Yeah,
Yeah,
people really lose track of it.
yeah.
So anyway, so that would be my suggestion.
To give them
that's
the-
really
the
a
second-
referral
the
back
second
to
grace
you
period.
to come up with a recommended gradual.
Or maybe to
schedule.
the select board to see whether they would
Sure.
implement that as a
Yeah,
fee, although I'm not sure how that would work. I had a question, Chris, on the fees and what state law provides, whether they have to be voted by town meeting after the initial fee, because the state law states that you cannot increase fees except by town meeting vote. So I didn't know, but this is a late fee. It's not,
Yeah, I can look.
Does it have to be in bylaw, do you think, or is this could be determined?
I'm hoping it can just be
No.
determined by the
Yeah.
select
Like a
board.
fee
And
schedule.
then it could be,
I mean, we have the whole fee schedule. I kind of wonder whether we're edging into a policy thing here.
oh, I think
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think this is definitely,
Yeah.
and it's a recommendation
Yeah.
to look at
Yeah.
further, because.
so the select board would take it up based on Louise's thoughts and recommendations, which all make sense to me. And then would it get incorporated into the bylaws or would be sort of codicil or?
Well, right
something?
now, we have them,
Because we
the
don't- the other
fees are
fees
set
in
from
here.
time to time by the select board.
Right,
Yeah,
so then we would just.
Let
the
them
next
do that.
time the select
But the
board
language
chooses
is,
to
you
do
know,
it.
April 30th shall be subject to fines. I mean, it's not,
Right.
they're mandatory fines. We don't have any
so you
discretion.
don't
No,
have to,
understood,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So that could be determined by select board.
I mean, we
Right.
did just go through the whole,
Fee thing.
yeah, fee thing.
Would it be fair to say that a practical, maybe logistical recommendation would be change the enforcement entity from the animal control officer to the town clerk?
Well, so he would be really happy
Um,
if you did that.
And then then perhaps either refer to town meeting for something, maybe it's shall, maybe that's a may, or.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that if you're registering late, you should just be subject to a late fee. If you're
As distinguished from a fine. you're
as
saying.
distinguished from a fine for not
Yeah.
registering your dog. I mean, people come in and like, their parents passed away,
Yes.
they just had a grandchild, people have all kinds of reasons why things.
I guess
Fall
my
through the
slight
cracks.
discomfort with this is
Mhm.
that we had sort of said this committee was not
Oh, I'm gonna make
doing
this right.
policy
Oh, well,
stuff.
we're absolutely not.
Yeah.
We're just talking about where we're sending it.
And you just
Okay.
happen to
Oh,
have
no,
someone
no,
who's
no,
in
God,
charge
no,
of
we're
this
not changing the
particular
thing.
bylaw.
Other than
Mhm.
who's getting noted
Yeah,
Right,
as the one to follow up. That's-
right.
yeah, because I mean, I think it makes sense, it's just,
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was so much sensitivity, and Louise, you were in the early
Yeah.
meetings, there was so much sensitivity that this committee was going to be this huge power grabbing shadow cabinet.
Right.
You know,
no.
Nosferatu kind of thing, so,
Yeah,
No,
no, but we can distinguish
so
in the
we are.
notes, those that are to be referred versus those
Yeah,
that
I
are.
think
Yeah.
it's just referred to the select board to talk
Yes.
about in conjunction with the town clerk and, yeah.
And assuming the select board were amenable to it, we could. A simple rewording of 4.1.4 could take out the shall.
Take care, yeah, yeah,
Okay,
You could almost just leave the fine in the fine
Yeah.
schedule, and as long as
Yeah.
the shall's gone,
Oh, that's true.
Right.
you
Yeah.
have the discretion to
Yes.
impose it or not.
right. For those who.
so the
refuse.
owner not licensed on or before April 30th in any year may be subject to fine? Or what,
It
That
just,
would be you all,
We could
from
just
the
say
select
is,
board to
okay.
if we
decide.
said is, it's not so directive and it's
Well-
also not may, because Louise will be in the position of having. to
but
look at that.
May is permissive, right? May would allow
Right,
you. to
oh,
do it.
absolutely, yeah.
But they
rather
can't
than
come back
shall.
to you and say, wait, it's only me.
Which is what our letter says to the dog may,
Oh, well,
you
then
and
that
the dog
sounds
may
good.
be subject to fine.
Yeah,
And this is just off the top of my head, but what I might do is reword 4.1.4. So that the title is not failure to license, and what the sentence then goes on to say is simply that. You shall license your dog
yeah,
By a
for
certain
yeah,
date.
yeah.
April 30th, period. Then you've got the fine in section 8 that could be applied or not.
Right.
Makes sense.
In the
Right.
discretion of the enforcement.
that's
authority.
right.
Right.
Well, this is pretty
And
interesting.
then we go to kennels.
Then we go to kennels. So kennels, this is a new law. September 2024, the law went into effect on kennel licensing.
So this is state law.
So this is state law. And I just lifted the language. And what the state law says is the town clerk working with the animal control officer, like we determine what the requirements are and what can go or not go onto the kennel license. And we have 4 right now in Needham. And we took care of it this year in accordance with the law, because you have to comply with the law.
Right.
And we had no issues. I did call, the Department of Agricultural Resources because I had a question about kennels. The definition of kennels seems to be very broad, and they said they're still working on their regulations. So, you know, they couldn't really help us, but this just basically says what state law says. So that makes everybody aware that,
Right.
you know, here's what you need to do. We already have kennel licenses in our fee schedule, so we just applied the same fee schedule. But there may end up being more kennels depending upon how regulations.
That's
Our
when they
draft.
come out different rates.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, but right now we just have 4.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's probably isn't the kind of thing that changes in state law very often, but when it does, we have to change bylaw.
Right, it doesn't change very often. And this, they called it Ollie's Law. There was a whole slew of training that went behind that. Have you heard about it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it reasonable to just say we will follow state law and not have, I think we had this discussion about something before, that people really would look to this to find out what the law was. And
I
we see
think
it
it
have to change it.
simplifies 2 things for people. One is, who do I go to, rather than having to read state law? And then the other thing is, like here I had the fines, they need to be set.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they need to know, like, that's gonna have to be set anyway, so you're gonna have to
Select
refer to
board's gonna be working.
something,
Got it.
yeah.
And those are 500,000. And
That is what it says. It has to be 500 for the first, and then no more than 1,000 for subsequent, but I know there's substantial fines, but kennels.
Kennels, risky.
It's a business.
How does that work with 21D though, capping on non-criminal dispositions at 300?
I haven't thought about that yet, but I want to think about that because, yeah, 300 is the max.
Under,
Well,
Right.
is this statutory
Yeah.
thing assuming a state enforcement then?
no,
No. Okay.
I mean, if the
No.
statute says we can do it, we can do it, but
Yeah.
but it is hard. You know, it is hard to reconcile with the fact that 300 is the hard cap on all the
Yeah.
other fines that we would impose.
that's
Absent-
just what the
Yeah.
how the statute reads.
Right.
And other communities have already implemented these
Hmm.
hefty fines.
I feel like a kennel's totally different than a single dog, for sure, so.
Oh, yeah,
Cause it's
yeah.
so,
Well, this is a
Risky.
commercial, in a sense, it's a commercial entity.
Right.
Well, we have personal kennels in town.
And that's why I think it's useful to have it in the bylaw, because there is the,
mhm.
Yeah,
you have
Mhm.
3 dogs, I'm
Mhm.
not happy about it. Are you a kennel or are you not, or are you just?
Totally.
obnoxious
Totally a
neighbor?
little wire.
and that is who calls the neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And it's.
And say that someone has too many dogs, or that they have. a-
Right, and then we can say, no, a kennel license was issued, they can have 8 dogs there, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Cause that's the other thing
yeah,
that's in the kennel license.
Right, no, I see that, yeah.
Yeah,
And who might the enforcement entity be for this within, right?
so I think it's
Yeah.
both the
Right.
police and the town clerk, because that's who issues the kennel license.
Right. I
Town
think that
clerk
makes
issues the
sense.
license, the police would be responsible for some.
So, but this one, the law specifically says that the town clerk determines with the animal control officer
Right,
Okay,
what happens.
lucky you.
He and I worked really well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Glad to do that.
on the DBAs,
Onto DBAs, we don't have any, well, public carriages,
unless, I'm not
flammables,
telling-
we're all good. I think flammables are all fine. Automobiles, I do have, I think, just, volunteer. Yeah, so automobiles are a separate category of licensing in above. Up above. It's section 4.3.2.
4.3.
Right there. So automobiles are separate, and so I just want to make sure everybody sees that.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
And I was told by my staff that we're not doing this.
Oh,
That we have parking structures with 4 more vehicles that have not, well, I'm the town clerk, I have no idea where they are. But whoever is the person issuing permits for these needs to notify us. So we have a number of these automobile
Like,
permits.
like someone who has, like our neighbor had
collection.
room for 3 cars and they had one where the car was lifted up, is that?
It says any parking of 4 or more vehicles in a structure. And then there are
Yeah.
parking, there are structured parking in Needham. And we're supposed to be, so apparently some of them pay a permit fee and some of them do not. So I don't know.
It's
who-
under flammables, is that?
Yeah, well,
Because it's
I
in the
don't get
same
that.
state statute.
Right,
Oh,
right.
oh, weird.
Oh,
Okay.
Also, if there's a
Those
parking,
flammable statutes go back to the early days of cars and.
okay.
and
Interesting.
yeah.
the select board does permit, well, the fire department permits any cars with the capacity of over 500 or up to 500 gallons total of gas, and then over 1,000, the select board has to do the license. for the
So,
parking
so we
garages.
distinguish between the registration. You register them, we license them.
Oh, wow.
So the registration, so that's why, so fire department's good at notifying us of all the new flammables that they're allowing in Needham. And then we issue the licenses annually. The only one that isn't issued is automobiles, because I'm not sure where those come from. It could be planning.
And is this in here because of state law?
Yes, yes,
And if it's still current?
yes. Yes,
You don't think that's the select board, just the way it's graphically set up, it looks like it's under the select board.
Yeah, 'cause we
no, they,
approve all
select
of
board
these.
approved
the-
them initially, but then the annual licensing.
Oh, I
comes
just,
back.
I see, the annual
Yeah,
fee payment is distinguished from a new license.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we don't grant licenses
No, you don't.
other than DBAs and.
Select board does, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but so that one, I'm just, flagging that. They're probably not doing what we're.
It's really the
Exactly all.
building department.
It could be the building
Have that.
department, we can look into that,
I
so
mean,
maybe
they
that's
might
a
be the
note for
ones that
Chris
actually
too.
have some information.
I wouldn't be surprised to hear that, no, this has never been,
Oh,
but,
Oh, no, we do have. Licenses
okay.
under this part of the bylaw. We have a number of them.
okay.
Uh-huh. We just happen to know that because we drive around town,
But there are other
Others.
structures that,
yeah,
Interesting, yeah.
that
A
aren't
lot of people
licensed.
collect cars, so. Whole subculture.
And some of them are just commercial too, buildings. Not all commercial buildings that have parking in a structure have licenses, some do and some don't.
These are the parking.
Hmm.
You're right, that's. Yeah, I was thinking about overnight parking, but
No, I think this is like Boston makes a ton of money on this.
that's what I was just thinking, there's a lot of money going
Yeah.
missing here.
I don't think we're gonna make a ton of money.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna.
But I think it also gives
It's not gonna buy
us
the
a
college school,
list,
but-
and the fire department then
absolutely.
has access to the list, knows exactly where everything is.
Yeah, I understand.
So anyway, all right, so DBAs.
Yeah.
So DBAs, we don't have anything about, which means it makes it a little bit difficult to, issue or not issue licenses. So just so you know, this tracks pretty much the state statute. I do have language that all businesses shall be required to have a valid street address when the business, where the business can be found. I mean, that's the whole point of a DBA.
Right,
And we have, people calling because they've been rejected by other communities that have bylaws and they won't let them do a virtual where there's no real physical address. And also the leased, like, office space that's not real.
Mhm.
Well, it's not.
Right.
Let's see, the evidence of authorization to sign, I added. Because in all contracts and other legal documents, people can't just show up at the counter and sign and say, yeah, I'm signing on behalf of this company without any proof. Let's see, the last one was the changes. We do have change of DBAs, change of name, change of address, people die. And, that just tracks, again, statutory.
right.
The only thing that might change is if the Secretary of the Commonwealth issues regulations regarding notarization not in person. But this is the way the statute reads right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's it. So that would just add this section and fix something that we don't have. I would also ask then Article 8, can we find them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because we do know of businesses.
You
Because
said that you had quite a
people
bit of
come
problem
in,
with this.
right,
Yeah.
people come in and they want to know whom they should contact,
Mhm.
and we can't give them that information because they're a DBA. And so when they try to find them on the state corporate database, they don't exist.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah,
facilitating fraud.
facilitating it, but we're just not, like, we don't have a mechanism to
Right, but
force people to do
the
it.
net effect is.
Banks now, so bank regulations changed last year. So banks now are requiring DBAs to bring in a certificate when they open accounts or they get loans. They're not going back for all their files, but if there's a new transaction, they're forcing them to come in. So we've seen a lot more business this year because the bank regulations
Yeah.
changed.
That makes sense.
But still, I mean, when people, they want to get in touch with the business because they just did business with them and they need to know who the owner is, they should be able to.
No,
Mhm.
And those fines are set at 300 max.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
See that.
I think something that the non-criminal dispositions had been set by the impact level was the intent, which might
That's
be,
up, I don't know. I'm just saying that's what state law provides.
it would be capped by 21D. But it might, I guess this might be more of a policy. Or
You think it could be 100?
it could be 100 vice 300, which would be like permanent. If I recall correctly, the discussion was 300 with like a significant harm, 200 was,
And I think you
Almost
also need to
significant.
look at it in terms of, so the DBA fee is $60 for 4 years. It's like, order of magnitude, that's kind of how I look at the dogs too. It's $20 for 1 year. Now you're gonna be fined 100
Mhm.
for missing the 1 year deadline. Like, I think we need to look at orders of magnitude too.
one would be, I guess, a recommended minimal penalty.
Well, I
Is
mean,
it-
they have
isn't
to pay
100 our minimum
Minimum
fine?
is 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they
decided
pay a
on that.
minimum
We-
fine of $100 and they come in, they get their DBA for 60.
Mhm.
They got 4 years for $160.
Mhm.
It's not really outrageous.
They get it for 160 or 60?
Well, if it turns out they
Yeah,
didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
have
got it.
one.
Yes,
And
no.
if the
that's
100
not-
were not didn't provide sufficient leverage, you could issue a $100 ticket, right?
Right,
Because that would be every day.
right.
If they failed to come
Well,
in and
that's
get the
true.
actual
That's
DBA,
true.
you could
That's
issue
true.
them another ticket. So
Right.
I think the 100 in that scenario would serve.
Which is, yeah, it's sufficient.
If I recall correctly, the discussion as well during the initial development of that chart and enforcement.
Mhm.
Enforcement would be unless dictated, as we were talking about, shall,
Mhm.
at the discretion of the enforcement entity in this case. Unless there's something in the bylaw that would require the levy of that penalty.
You would be allowed to issue a $100 ticket every day, but you would
Not
not be
required
required
to.
to do so. You
And
could,
here the statute said every month, because it's a business. There are some businesses, they just need that little push.
Right.
And then they'll come right in.
No, part of it, like many of these things, is it just the oversight or is there gamesmanship?
Some of them there is.
Right.
And some of them have learned that in Needham, we don't have bylaws, so certain towns don't allow them to do certain things, they then come here. Aha,
Well, let's see, we're approaching
Yep.
a witching hour here.
I don't think I had anything
Nothing
on
else?
the treasure collector.
Any other comments? I think for next meeting, we have hoping that we can accomplish. We have Article 6, which is wetlands, and Article 7, which is stormwater. I have 6, Michael B has stormwater. We'll see if we can.
Stormwater we're redoing,
yeah,
right? I
stormwater,
mean,
I don't know if it's worth,
yeah,
actually, that's where I'm headed.
yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Is over to PSAP to go talk about stormwater.
The
Bylaw
bylaws,
amendments, yeah. So
So question mark on,
I don't think we should look at it because it's gonna change.
there's a whole working
Yeah.
group right now,
Yeah.
meeting at 7, and they've been meeting for months
okay.
on substantive revisions to that.
How
to that
smoothly
bylaw.
Michael played.
Yeah,
No dummy there.
Exactly. So we can talk about wetlands next time, and I think we're pretty much on the list here.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a lot of
Thank you
knowledge.
both.
It helps a lot, the knowledge.
Any
We've
other
been in the
comments?
job long enough to have seen a bunch of these issues.
yeah, this was my first dog cycle. It's fascinating. Last year I came in, I issued the fines, I had no idea
Mhm.
what kind of disarray I threw the police department in. They came in, they're like, what is that? I was like, oh, that's what it says. I did it.
Oh, man.
Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.